The biggest day of the NFL season. It's finally here. It's finally upon us. It's so close. And the crazy thing is, if we're looking at the beginning of the season, most of us had no idea if we would even make it here in the first place with all this craziness going on. But all these weeks don't matter. The 17 weeks of the NFL regular season don't matter. The wild card round doesn't matter. The divisional round, the championship games, they don't matter. There's only one game left this year, and that's the only one that has any bit of relevancy, the one that holds any bit of weight, any bit of importance. And it's time to break it all down because, of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen. This is our NFL Super Bowl 55 preview show. And we got some stuff to talk about because, of course, we had to look through the season, see how the Chiefs got here, how the Bucs got here. They already played each other, so we're going to break that down. The Chiefs have lost only 2 games and only 1 game where Patrick Mahomes was playing, so we have to look at that in depth. Now, of course, I'm going to give you my official Super Bowl preview, keys to the game, and the predictions of who, of course, is going to win this one, who's going to be the X Factor. And I'm even going to tell you what color Gatorade is going to come out of that bucket when it's poured onto the winning coach of this game. But before I get into things proper, just real quick, I want to help you guys this weekend. I want to help you guys win some money this weekend at almost no cost to you if you do things right, because we've partnered with Thrive Fantasy. It's a fantasy it's a sports betting app, does prop betting. And then if you deposit $20 and use the promo code 4th and long, that's the number 4 THANDLONG, they'll match you up to of at least $20. They'll match you up to $50. So essentially, you can get $50 of free money right there to bet around with. And the best part about this is that it honestly takes almost no skill. Even I suck at sports betting. Even I'm able to get this because they give you all the stats, they give you all the breakdowns, they give you all the help you need. No outside research needed. So it's just perfect. It's all in one place. And it's really the best app out there. So just download Thrive Fantasy on the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, or go to thrivefantasy.com and get started today just in time for the Super Bowl. But let's take a look at these 2 teams. Of course, first team we're going to look at is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are the challengers in this one, as the Chiefs are attempting to defend their Super Bowl title. So, how did we get here? The Bucs went 11-5 in the regular season. And of course, if you want to go before this, go into the preseason, this is a team that got Tom Brady. And that was huge news. I remember when this all went down, people were losing their minds. And honestly, I didn't. Not very many people saw this coming. Lucky for me, I saw this coming 2 days before it happened. I said, well, you can go back on the YouTube channels and look that out. But I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one right there. But they assemble essentially what's looking like this super team, at least offensively. And the first couple weeks, it didn't really look like that. They had that big one over the Packers early in the season. But besides that, they've been almost iffy all season long, but they've been winning. They haven't been winning well, but they, a win's a win at this point. But they go 11-5 in the regular season. Their losses, they suffered 2 to the Saints, 1 34-23, and then 1 just absolutely demolished 38-3. They also lost to the Bears. We all remember that game on Thursday Night Football, which was extremely weird to go down. I wasn't expecting that one. They lost to the Rams 27-24, as well as the Chiefs 27-24. Then the playoffs, they were the road warriors this year. They go on the road in every game and they win all 3 of them. They beat Washington in the wild card round 31-23. They beat New Orleans in the divisional round 30-20, avenging those 2 previous losses they had to them this season. Then they go on and they handle Green Bay at Lambeau in January, and they beat them 31-26 and make their way to the Super Bowl. Now, let's talk those losses to the Saints. Brady did not look good. We'll see a theme as we progress through these games. Brady did not look good against the Saints. That first game, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The second game, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And it just was not pretty. It wasn't a good performance in any bit of the meaning. him and the offense just kind of grabbed the bed in those games. And if you want to look at that, they had 86 rushing yards in game 1 and only 8 in game 2. Of course, 8 rushing yards makes sense when you could only put up 3 points on the board. Versus the Bears. Let's talk about that Thursday night game. Of course, this was a Nick Foles game where Tom Brady, once again, it's like the Super Bowl 52 all over again, where he goes out and he loses to Nick Foles in a primetime game. We had, this is also a game, if we want to remember this, when, Tom Brady threw up the 4 fingers, and he kind of forgot what down it was. So, of course, we had Bruce Arians after the game doing a little damage control. No, Tom Brady did not forget what. Of course, you're going to say that. Of course, you're going to say that. Of course, you're not going to make the GOAT look out to have one of the dumbest kind of mental lapses that you could. And it's the Bears just escaping late in this game with the field goal. In the game that was sloppy by both teams, it was the Bears. What do you expect from them? You kind of expected a little more from the Bucs. You did not expect them to lose this game, especially in the fashion that they did. Especially when you have Tom Brady being out-dueled by Nick Foles. That's a thorn in his side that he will never be able to get out. Now that game against the Rams. This was, if I would say it, this was the better game. Yeah, this was the better. You can't really call it good because, loss is loss. This is a better game compared to what they did. Compared to the rest of their 4 losses, this was definitely the best one by far. Because you had Tom Brady throwing for over 200 yards this game, but still they didn't do anything. This is what happens when you run through a buzzsaw that is a Los Angeles Rams defense. Tom Brady couldn't get anything done this game. Besides, the 24 points is cool, but besides that, it was really, really tough on them. And once again, a Buccaneers loss. Tom Brady throws a multi-interception game. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tampa Bay limited just to 251 yards of total offense in this one. And then also it doesn't help when you only have 35 rushing yards? 35 rushing yards. That's not going to win you football games. So you can see there's a couple key stats I'm focusing in on here when it comes to wins and especially the losses for the Tampa Bay Bucs. When you look at the losses for the Tampa Bay Bucs, there's 2 stats that stand out. One lesser is your rush game. They were averaging about 100 yards rushing during the regular season. They've averaged about 115 yards during these 3 postseason games. So those are good stats. But when they can't get to that, and when Tom Brady's sloppy, when Tom Brady's throwing 2 to 3 interceptions a game, that's when they lose. Their only game where Tom Brady, or at least their only loss that Tom Brady did not throw for an interception was against the Bears. But of course, that was only 250-yard, 1 touchdown performance. That's not going to get it done. I know that Bears defense was well above average. It was the only kind of redeeming quality about that team this year. Like, most years previously, let's be honest. It's not the MVP, Mitch Trubisky. Shout out to the GOAT status right there. But you can't do that. You can't do that, okay? We all know this. We all know football. You can't turn the ball over like this, Tom Brady. Now, let's look at the other side of the football. Let's look at the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that's damn near unbeatable, at least 99.9% of the season. So, how did we get here? A 14-2 regular season performance. Of course, the only 2 losses were to the Chargers in Week 17 when they rested Patrick Mahomes and a good chunk of those starters. And the only real loss this team suffered this season was at home against who else but the Las Vegas Raiders out of all teams. Of all teams, they've played some damn good football teams, especially Bucs, Ravens, stuff like that. They lose to the Raiders. Not good luck. They lose that one all the way back. Let's take our memories way back when to Week 5 of the NFL season. A 40-32 loss at home to Las Vegas. But in the playoffs, they beat the Browns in the divisional round. Of course, Patrick Mahomes hurt that game. Yeah, Chad Henne coming up clutch in this one. They win this one 22-17. And then they take on the hottest team in football, the Buffalo Bills, and they handle them. A 14-point win there, 38-24. But really, when we want to kind of analyze this game and see flaws in these teams, I point out the flaws in the Bucs. You look at their losses. The only problem with that, if we want to look at the Chiefs and we want to look at their losses, they only have one to go off of, but that loss could still be very telling. And it starts at the quarterback. It starts at Patrick Mahomes being outdueled by none other than the guy that looks like a raccoon, the guy that looks like he wears eye black, the guy that he looks like he belongs in a punk rock band with those kind of looks like he's wearing mascara, let's be honest. Derek Carr. He outduels Patrick Mahomes in this one. He throws about for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, so only 1 interception. Patrick Mahomes, almost the same yard-wise, 340 yards, but he has only 2 touchdowns to that 1 interception. But the real thing, the real stat line that we have to look at here is in yards, turnovers, first downs, most importantly, time of possession. Because if you want to look at this, Las Vegas swept the Chiefs they beat them in 3 out of the 4 categories, and they tied in 1 of them. Las Vegas, they have 490 total yards compared to Kansas City's 413 yards. They did tie in turnovers with 1 apiece for the teams, so let's just call that a wash. And they also tied in first downs as well, 22-22. But the real difference in this game is time of possession. And how do you beat the Chiefs? It's simple. Easier said than done. You keep the offense off the football field for as long as humanly possible. And although it's not like the Raiders totally kept them off the field, they had 10 more minutes of possession this game compared to the Chiefs. The Raiders, 35 minutes time of possession. The Chiefs, 25 minutes time of possession. And it was the Chiefs, actually, that were up they're up by a couple scores in the second quarter. They're up 21-10. Las Vegas made it 21-24. And then they would go on to be tied at halftime. And after a scoreless third, it was the Raiders that put up 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to come away with a big dub in this game. And I believe this is the only time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he's lost a game by more than 1 score, because of course it was a 8-point difference. Sorry, it wasn't 1 score, it was a 7-point. The first time in Patrick Mahomes' career where he lost by more than 7 points, which is a ridiculous stat, which is very telling of the career that Patrick Mahomes has had so far. And there's a reason why he's kind of the future GOAT. That's why the Super Bowl matchups, GOAT versus future GOAT, because we all see where Patrick Mahomes is heading down. We all see the road he's going towards, and there's a reason he's a $500 million quarterback. And while the Bucs, they are a little bit of a different team from regular season and postseason. In the regular season, the Bucs actually got outscored. They were averaging about 30 points a game, while they were giving up 34 points a game. That has not been the case, obviously, this postseason. Their scoring has stayed the same. They're about the 31-point margin, but their opponents are closer to that 20-point margin, maybe mid-20s and stuff like that, not at that 34-point margin. So their defense has tightened up, and their offense has also started to produce more rushing yards compared to the regular season and postseason. But for the Chiefs, it's pretty much just business as usual. So far, if we want to look at stats, if we want to look at actual team performance and how they play, it's been no different. The regular season Chiefs have been the postseason Chiefs. There's no difference in those. We get the same team, but we do get a different Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. So we looked at those games, and of course, these teams did match in Week 12 of the season. And it was the Chiefs coming away with this one at home, 27-24. And the real story, the real crazy stat that we saw in this game was, what the hell was Tyreek Hill on this game, and what the hell was that Bucs secondary doing? And what they just They couldn't stop him. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill absolutely tore up that field, and they had themselves a day. We had Patrick Mahomes throwing for 462 yards, 3 touchdowns, and most importantly, 0 interceptions. Then also, Tyreek Hill, dude, you want to save some yards for the rest of that offense because he had 269 yards off of 13 catches for 3 big-time touchdowns. And just in the first 15 minutes of this game alone, he comes away with 7 catches, 203 yards, and 2 scores. It was ridiculous. And it's one of those games where I was like, man, I really wish I had him on my fantasy team. And if we want to look at this, we've been looking at the run game for the Bucs and their losses. Limited run game here once again, only 75 rushing yards, 20 less than what they average in the regular season. It was Brady. Look at this. Here's the theme again. Another multi-interception game. He had his 3 touchdowns. He had his 350 passing yards, but he had those 2 interceptions that ended up proving costly. It was a close game, kinda only at the end. Is because the Bucs put up 14 points in that fourth quarter when the Chiefs didn't do anything. It was a 27-10 game going into the fourth. So take that as you will. It was that the Chiefs just playing little prevent defense in that fourth quarter, which I really do believe they did. It was the Bucs trying to make a comeback. I wouldn't put too much weight into this. I really do believe that the score didn't represent what we saw this game. It was, the score-wise, it was a close game. But if you look at the actual performance, if you look at the film, it was not a 3-point game. It was clearly not a 3-point game. There was clearly the Chiefs who were dominant, and then it was the Bucs. That's what we had in this one. That's exactly what we had in this one. And if I like I talked about in that Chiefs loss to the Raiders, those 4 big time stats. Let's look at these stats once again this game because we had the Chiefs. They swept them. They had 543 yards to only 417 from the Bucs. They had only 1 turnover. They only turned the ball over once. And like I said, Tom Brady turned the ball over twice. The Chiefs, 26 first downs. The Bucs, only 20 first downs. And time of possession in this one, we had a 12-minute difference. We had the Bucs, 14-minute difference because we had the Bucs only having 23 minutes in time possession. You had the Chiefs with 37 minutes of time of possession. Clear difference with that one, right? And you got to look at those stats. Those stats are, it sounds basic, but those are huge. Turnover battle is probably one of the biggest ones. In football, the coaching staff, they talk about these types of plays. They talk about time of possession, the turnover battle. They talk about first downs, and they talk about big plays. Passing wise, a 20+ yard play is considered a big play, and for rushing, a 10 or more yard play is considered a big play. And every week, when you're playing football, the coaches, they go back, they look at those stats, and we get a report about that. And 99% of the time, when you win the majority of those stats, you win the football game. So obviously, you can't win the football game when you don't get a single one of those. And of course, we did see a couple examples this season where we had one team winning these 4 main stats, but they still lost the game. But of course, that's a rarity. That's something that doesn't happen as much. That is a kind of outlier. Most of the time, you win these 4 stats, you win the football game. So that's going to be something huge to watch this Sunday in Tampa Bay. Of course, the Bucs become the first team to play a Super Bowl at home. And of course, it's in front of almost no one. So that's really damn cool. But that's how we got here. Now, let's look ahead. Let's look into the keys for this game, and let's look into how this game is going to play out. So, of course, the Chiefs are an absolutely fantastic team. And I'll be honest, if you've been listening throughout the season, especially in the playoffs, Alex and I, we have not thought highly about the Bucs. And even the postseason, too. But what do you expect? It's Tom Brady. He just keeps winning games. He just keeps proving people wrong. And, I'll be honest, he keeps pissing me off because I have, if you guys heard, I have a pretty heavy dislike for Tom Brady, but at the same time, a very heavy amount of respect. Is one of those, hate the guy, have to respect him. And if that's your feeling for him, that's totally fair in my opinion. On paper and on the field, the Chiefs, hands down, have the better team. But it's the Bucs that have been great in flashes. It's been the Bucs that have done enough at times to win football games, and they're not necessarily winning games convincingly because, especially in the playoffs, you beat a Washington football team that was 6-10 and should not have even been in the playoffs. Okay, so you beat that team, and then you go on. No offense to the Go Taylor Heineke, but come on, you had to be a Washington team led by Taylor Heineke. And then you go out, you beat New Orleans, and that was a game where Drew Brees absolutely played horrendously. And I still stand by the fact that if Jameis Winston played that game, the Bucs would have lost and the Saints would have swept the Bucs 3-0 on the season. Strongly believe that. And there's a reason that they should be re-signing Jameis Winston. You could check out our video over on our channel. It's doing pretty well. Appreciate you guys for checking that one out. And then they go out, they beat they beat Green Bay in the NFC Championship game, and that was a game where Green Bay couldn't stop them, especially on third down. They gave up this really dumb play to end the half, and then also shout out to Matt LaFleur for one of the worst coaching decisions I've ever seen. It's over a week and a half, and I still cannot comprehend why the hell he kicked the field goal. It still just makes no sense. It's going to be one of these mysteries that's going to live on forever. So there's a reason to doubt the Bucs because they haven't really proved that they haven't really convincingly beat a good team. So I know that a lot of people might be hesitant towards doubting them, and I'm not disrespecting them because they haven't had a showcase performance. Unless we're talking about like the week 3, week 4 game against the Packers, but there's been nothing consistent. So there's a reason I have these beliefs about this Bucs team. But let's look at my keys to the game. For the Tampa Bay Bucs, it's going to be their pass rush. Key number 1 is their pass rush because Shaq Barrett, even JPP's been coming along nicely. Devin White has been tearing it up this season. And even throw out the name, Ndamukong Suh. He's been having a good season. If we look to 2 weeks ago against the Packers, and also their first game against the Packers, what won them these games mostly is that pass rush. They have 5 sacks against them 2 weeks ago. And it's going to be tough because possibly 3 offensive line starters are going to be out for the Chiefs. They're already missing both their tackles. Of course, Fisher got injured against the Browns, and it was like the first offensive play, which is horrible to see. And you really do feel for him and feel for the Chiefs. But this is a game where if you are the Bucs pass rushers, you should be licking your chops. You should be drooling at what you're seeing right now because right now, this should be your best performance in terms of the pass rush because it's going to be you guys that's going to be slowing down Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to be your defensive secondary. It's not going to be your average to below average defensive secondary that's hurt. It's going to be the pass rush. And like I said, one of these other themes I've been talking about in these Tampa Bay Buccaneers losses has been the run game. There's been a clear shift in run game importance compared to the regular season into the postseason, and it's been Leonard Fournette that's been carrying the burden of this. He's had a heavy rush, or at least a heavier rushing presence recently, and he's kind of come into own. He's kind of proven why he was a valuable asset to bring onto this team, and he's proven kind of what I thought he could be when the Bucs signed him from the Jags. And it's been, let's look at this. So we saw regular season games. Yards per game average 95 rushing yards. In games that they lost, in those 5 regular season losses, they've only averaged 62 rushing yards. So there's a clear difference between when they're winning games and when they're losing. Or typical games, they're averaging 95. Losing games, they're averaging only about 60. They're averaging about 35 yards less a game, and that is a tremendous margin. And we all know that you have to keep Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense off the field. And how you do that? And once again, easier said than done, but it's through long, sustained drives. And you can do this more effectively with a good rushing attack. And it's these long, sustained drives that have been a problem for them recently. It's a lot of times they're depending on these big plays downfield, these big passing plays by Tom Brady. But it's also, remember, especially earlier in the season, it's been Tom Brady that's most of his turnovers have come from those long passes when he's trying to push the ball downfield. So they need this run game. And it's the Chiefs defense. It's a fast flow. It's a high-speed defense. It's a group of 11 guys that play downhill hard, and they meet you on the boundaries, and you can't get around them. It's hard to get over the top of them, and it's hard to find these holes because they're just so damn fast. So don't do what the Browns did. What the Browns did against the Chiefs, they try and run these little jet sweeps, these pitches, these little tosses and stuff like that. They tried to get outside the tackle box. And what happened on more than half of those plays, they were met at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, especially a guy like Tyrann Mathieu. He is one hell of a run stopper as a safety. That guy can cover 15 yards in what feels like a snap, okay? You can't run outside these guys. Keep it between the tackles. Keep that north to south rushing game, that good old school smash mouth football, and just go and smash the ball between the tackles and make the Chiefs stop you. Make the Chiefs stop that run game, because once they have to commit to that run game, that's going to help you open up the pass game, and that's going to make it a little easier for Tom Brady to make those long throws down the field. And speaking of Tom Brady, my third key of the game for the Bucs is Tom Brady has to play clean football, ladies and gentlemen. In 4 of the 5 losses, he threw for at least 2 interceptions. He threw 3 interceptions against the Packers in their NFC Championship game. He had a bad game against the Saints, although he didn't turn the ball over. It was sloppy. Tom Brady has to play clean football in this. Obviously, you cannot give this highly potent Chiefs offense even more opportunities, even more short fields, because they're going to make you pay. And it's this Chiefs secondary, they're good. They're not great. They're good. They're not great. The Bucs also have the better, I would say they have the better receiving core too. So they have to use it effectively, get Tom Brady in a rhythm early, so he doesn't have to force balls down the field. So he doesn't have to do this stuff. You have to avoid that almost at all costs. Now, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. Here are your 3 keys to this game. Key number 1, I want you to get out to an early lead. This is typically a team that has not been good in the first half. If you look at the regular season performances, and if you ended those games at halftime, those 16 games at halftime, they wouldn't be 14-2. They would be 10-6. And of course, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter when they get down early. We saw what happened, last season in the playoffs against the Texans, against the Titans. Hell, even the Super Bowl against the 49ers. And then against the Bills, they get down early. And they always come back, but the difference is this Bucs team is a better team. This is a team where I like to kind of poke fun and kind of poke holes at them, but they're a team that will make you pay if you don't build up an early lead. If the Bucs are able to get out to a good start, that's going to spell disaster, because that's assuming that they're getting the good rushing attack. That's assuming that Tom Brady's starting to get into a rhythm, which is not going to bode well for you if you're the Chiefs. And it's key number 2, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. This is a duo that has been lethal all season long, and it's this duo that can single-handedly win you another Lombardi trophy. They can do it themselves. And so you had to stop the pass rush. Of course, I was talking about the Bucs. That's your key, is the pass rush. So how do you stop the pass rush? You get the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands fast. You do that by having your receivers just dominate. Tyreek Hill, super fast guy. He's beating almost any defensive back off the ball. 9 times out of 10 at the least. If he can get open quick, he's the guy that can get open in 2 seconds. That's going to be huge. If Patrick Mahomes can get the ball out of his hands in 2 seconds, Tyreek Hill's open. That's going to be perfect. Travis Kelce, huge playmaker in the middle of the field. Let alone he's kind of a deep threat himself too. So if they're able to get balls in Tyreek Hill's hands, in Travis Kelce's hands, it's going to be tough. And this is also a Bucs secondary that is injured. They're hurt. They're depleted going to this game. And like I said earlier, they're an average to below average secondary unit as well. Take advantage of that and make them pay for being hurt, and make them pay for not investing a little bit more into that defensive backfield. Third key of the game is just good all-around defensive football. You might have to employ this bend but don't break mentality as well, because the Bucs, they're likely going to convert these third downs like they did against Green Bay. They're likely going to get some of these larger plays. That's where a lot of their success comes, and albeit they're a good football team when they're able to land those. But you gotta stop that. And once it gets to the run zone, you have to clamp down and force field goals and not touchdowns. Force field goals and not touchdowns. If you're able to force field goals, you're going to win this football game. Because, Tom Brady, he's been absolutely lethal in the red zone this year. 36 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. If you're the Chiefs, if you're able to get an interception off Tom Brady in the red zone, there's a very good sign that the score is going to be in your favor. And with that being said, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get down to these final predictions. What I see in this game is either it's going to be there's two options where it could be a really close, really well contested football game. But there's also a part of me that thinks that this could be an absolute blowout if the Chiefs are able to play football the way they want to. If the Bucs are going to win this game, it's going to be in close fashion. If the Chiefs are going to win this game, could be in close fashion. Could also very well be an absolute blowout. But final score prediction, the thing that you guys all came here to hear, it's going to be the Chiefs taking this game 34-24. I got a 10-point margin on this one. And there's a few reasons. Andy freaking Reid, the best coach in football right now. In his career, he's 23-5 coming off a bye week. They've already won their bye week in the regular season this year. Obviously, they won their bye week going to the divisional round this year. Now they get 2 weeks to prepare for the Super Bowl. That's not a good sign if you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you're Bruce Arians and the rest of that coaching staff. Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, they're just seemingly unbeatable when it comes to being off the bye week. That's a huge advantage for them. And it's going to be a close game. I know it's a 10-point margin. It's going to be a close game, and then the Chiefs are going to pull away in the end. That's why it's going to be a larger margin. It's not going to be as big of a win as 10 points may seem, but on the scoreboard, it's going to be a 10-point difference. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to finish this game with over 350 passing yards and over 3 touchdowns. He's going to dominate through the air, and they're going to pick apart this battered and beat down defensive secondary unit that the Bucs have. Tom Brady, there's been a theme in his losses. I can see him throwing for a couple touchdowns, but at the same time, I'm calling another multi-interception game for Tom Brady. He's going to turn the ball over twice this game, and he's going to have his passing yards. He's going to throw for over 300 passing yards, but he's going to be held enough, and he is going to make those turnovers that are essentially going to lose in this football game. And let's take a look at who the X factor of the game is, because the obvious answer, if you want to look at that, it's wide receiver Mecole Hardman, because the Bucs, they're going to put almost all the resources to stopping Tyreek Hill and stopping Travis Kelce. So, a third wide receiver option that's a great receiver obviously it looks like Mecole Hardman is going to have a huge impact on this game. That's the easy answer here. But I want to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that the X factor for the Chiefs this game is going to be running back Darrell Williams. Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't been the guy this postseason in the backfield. He was the guy in the regular season. It's been Darrell Williams taking over this kind of role during these last 2 playoff games. He's seen an increased workload in rushing and receiving so far in the postseason. And you want to a great way to beat a pass rush is checkdowns to the running back, especially when their defense is going to be worrying about the over-the-top threats and middle of the field threats in Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Mecole Hardman. You're going to have some more space, and if you're able to get the ball out to Darrell Williams in space, that guy is fast, and he can make defenders miss, and he could get check yards just with checkdowns. He's going to be the guy in this game, but of course, Patrick Mahomes is going to be two-time Super Bowl winner, two-time Super Bowl MVP winner in this one. He defends not only his Lombardi trophy with the Chiefs, but he also defends his Super Bowl MVP as well. And like I said, I was even going to tell you the color that the Gatorade is going to be once it's poured onto Andy Reid. And that color is going to be Kansas City Red, the best flavor of Gatorade. And I think that's a little less of a take. That's just something that most people just kind of generally agree upon. It's going to be officially the start of a dynasty in Kansas City. Bad news for the rest of the league. Bad news, especially for the AFC. Bad news for me as a Broncos fan, because that AFC West is going to be ruled with an iron fist by the man, the myth, the legend, Andy Reid, along with the sidekick, Patrick Mahomes. It won't be Brady's last game, though. No, all these talks, 43, he's probably going to play till he's 45, probably going to play till he's 50, because whatever the hell that TB12 diet is, it's working. I've seen it. Not a diet for me. I've seen stories of people just eating ice cubes because you're hungry. I'm good. I'll pass on that. I don't think I need to go that serious. But that's going to do it. There is our official Super Bowl 55 preview show. Let us know what you guys think about this one, because it's going to be damn good. And of course, you guys already gave us some good responses on Twitter that I want to highlight, or over on our Instagram, which is at 4th and Long Radio, that I want to highlight real quick. And once again, shout out to these guys. These are some fan keys to the game from our Instagram page, which of course you can go check out. First one's coming from What the Puck podcast. Shout out to them. He says to give the ball to Brady to Gronk, and WWE end zone style. Review and Preview podcast says pressure Brady. He has trouble solving a Steve Spagnuolo defense. And like I said, that pass rush for either team is going to be key. Sports Fix UK says both teams' offense. This is likely going to be less of a defensive battle and more of an offensive battle. I can get behind that. Hard-hitting sports podcast says for the Bucs, it's their run game, keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field. Hey, I really do agree with that one. You're spot on the money. Run Pass Opinion says the Bucs make Casey kick field goals in the red zone, force turnovers, and pressure Patrick Mahomes. Once again, spot on with that one. FTS Sports Podcast says Bucs, the D-line versus the O-line. It's going to be running backs picking up the blitz and Tom Brady. Sports Storm says beat up the Bucs, the beat up Bucs secondary stepping up against a passing attack in the NFL. I say that's a key, and I say that's something that is not going to go well for that secondary unit. Max Onecast, of course, they say turnovers, and that's never a bad category to look at. That's always going to be a huge key to the game. And then finally, it's All Access Sports with, and he said that the Bucs have to stop Tyreek Hill. All great suggestions right there, all fantastic keys, and I appreciate all you guys giving me your input on Instagram. You guys are the best, and I appreciate everything, all the support that you give us. And officially, that being said, that's going to wrap it for us. Make sure to check out the rest of our playoff content about the NFL. Spent some really great takes this season. Oh, man, I'm looking forward to our recap of this. And then the week after, we're going to be breaking down our predictions for the NFL season, some of our best takes, some of our worst takes. And we're going to show you guys that in a nice little show. You expect that here in a couple weeks. And before I sign off, of course, Thrive Fantasy, use the promo code, get yourself some free money, essentially. And a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Of course, this show is heavily, it's all based off the fans. It's all based off of you guys. And it's partially funded by you guys as well. And I really am thankful for that. Shout out to Patreon supporter Ray Rodriguez for all your sports card collecting needs. We saw Patrick Mahomes; he had a rookie card go for millions, and it was like, oh, I forget exactly how much. It was a lot of damn money. So all your card collecting needs, check out Instagram account at the Big Bat Box. Also, shout out to Neil Wiley and his YouTube channel, Chosen Problems. And last but not least, thank you to Patreon supporter Ryan Watson. You guys, enjoy the Super Bowl. It's been a blast previewing and breaking down this entire season, all these weeks of action. And it's the big one now. It's the big one. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you get some good snacks. I know I'm going to be making myself a big old plate of nachos. It's going to be one hell of a cheat day. And I am looking forward to that one. Hopefully all you guys get your Super Bowl picks right. Most importantly, hopefully I'm right. We'll catch you guys in our Super Bowl 55 breakdown show.